Wait, this is the law of cosines. I've already put the formula down. This is a form. I shouldn't say formula. This is just a form. Just a form, because it doesn't matter what letters we're using. You'll notice that I've got that this letter here, the side, must correspond with the angle over on this side. So I guess in another form I could say p squared equals q squared plus r squared minus 2 times q times r times cos of p. So as long as this side and this angle are corresponding, you put your other two sides inside this form, and that's the law of cosines. I don't think there's anything else other than I like to think of this as a last resort using the law of cosines. So if you watch the law of sines video or lesson, you'll notice that it was fairly easy to use and solve for variables. So we like to use it rather than the law of cosines. So if we have to use this, we use it only once. Because if you can use the law of cosines and you're solving for a side or an angle, that means by the end of it, you'll have a corresponding side and angle, and then you can go back to the law of sines or the 180 rule. And they're just nicer to use, okay? So let's flip the page here and do an example. So we'll start with an example. We'll say we've got a triangle. We'll stick with A, B, and C as our angles, or alpha, beta, gamma, depending on what level you're at. So 42 degrees we'll say is B. We'll say side C is equal to 12. And I'm assuming we remember how to label triangles. Here's side A is 16. So again, your sides are opposite your angles. They correspond to each other, just like angle C and side C. Okay, so here's a question. And the question says, calculate or solve or find side B. So here's our side B, corresponding to our angle B. I think to myself, okay, can I use the 180 rule? I can't use the 180 rule. Do I have a corresponding side and angle? Well, I don't have angle A or side A. I don't have angle C and side C. I do have angle B, and we're looking for side B. And as long as we've got one of the other piece of information, we can go and use the law of cosines. So when I write out the law of cosines here, I'll do it in green here. I'm going to make B the boss, because that's what I'm looking for. So as long as my B out front corresponds with the angle at the end and the other two sides are in the middle, like so, then I'm in the right form. So I look at this, I got side A, I got side C, side A, side C, and I got angle B. So I've got everything I need. So if we're going to find B, we can just substitute everything in to the law of cosines. So I'm going to say B squared equals 16 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 16 times 12 times the cos of 42 degrees. Now when we do, I'll do some steps later and put them in here. But if you're looking for a side using law of cosines, I can't emphasize how this is the easiest part of the law of cosines. You just put this all into your calculator and don't hit equals until you're done with the law or the cos 42 at the end. And when you do that, For instance, in this one, try it in your calculator. Go and put 16 squared plus 12 squared. Subtract 2 times 16 times 12 times the cos of 42. Hit equals. That's going to give you what b squared is, and I got 114.63. So if you got that, you should be happy. And then the only problem is that's b squared. We want b, so now we just square root both sides. That cancels the square, and we're left with b equals 10.7, whatever your unit is. So there's using the law of cosines to solve for a side. So again, the formula you're given, you just got to plug everything into the right spot, pump it into your calculator. At the end you have b squared. You just square root that. So I think for that sake, we'll move on. We'll put some steps up, and then we'll do a second example where we're looking for an angle. Okay, so here you see the steps. Now, if we were to flash back to the last example, you'll see how we set up the law of cosines with, I always refer to whatever side you're looking for or whatever angle you're looking for is the boss side and angle. So that's who I know to put in the corresponding spots. They've got to match, but whoever I'm looking for, I'm calling the boss. So you see in step 2, it's pretty simple. If you're looking for a side, we just put everything into the calculator. I guess calculate, but calculator. And square root your final answer. Now, here's where, if we're looking for an angle, we got to do a little bit more. You got to isolate the cos of whatever angle it is you're looking for, and then inverse function or second function on your calculator, the cosine button to get your angle. So we'll see that right now. We'll quickly draw out an example here. Let's change the letters up. Let's go with L, M, and N and see where this takes us. So let's go and give side L here, let's call it 14. We'll go and say M is equal to 20. And we'll say N is equal to, 18. Oops, 18. So, again, let's calculate, solve, find angle M. Doesn't matter which one we pick, but that's one we'll go with. Okay. Find angle M. So that's, to me, who's boss. Once I realize I have to use the law of cosines, that is. So I can't use the 180 rule. I don't have corresponding side and angles, so that ixnays the law of sines out. So I'm on to the law of cosines. So here's my boss again. M squared equals. All the other sides now. N squared plus L squared minus 2NL times the other boss, cos of M. So there it is with the boss set up. Now I got to plug everything in. 20 squared equals 18 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 18 times 14 times the cos of M. So we've set it up. We put everything in. Now we're at part B of step 2 where it says isolate the cos angle. So we're going to isolate this whole thing. Now the problem is a lot of people go and put all this into their calculator and then just divide it out. But you'll notice that there's a minus in here. So we can't just put all that in the calculator because a minus can't be done before the timesing. So let's erase this stuff here. And let's go solve for this. I'll use red here. So I'm going to minus the 18 squared away to the other side. I'm going to minus this 14 squared away. That goes all the way over here. Minus, that cancels there, there, there. So on our left-hand side now, we're going to have 20 squared subtract 18 squared minus 14 squared equals negative 2 times 18 times 14 times the cos of M. So now you can see how in order to get cos M by itself, we have to divide by that negative 2, the 18, the 14, oops, out of there. And the 14. So that cancels there. So now I'm gonna flip the page so I got some room to work here. Before I do that, I gotta remember all this gets put into my calculator. Just remember that you do the top stuff equals divided by the bottom stuff. All right, so your numerator divided by your denominator. All right, so again, I put all that into my calculator, and you can go do that, and you'll end up with, I believe it's negative 120 divided by negative 504. That'll be what your cos m would equal. Now, if you really care, that's 0.238. I don't usually even write that down. I just get my fraction, and then I second function that, and that looks like this on your calculator. When you look real close, if you second function it, you're going to get a cos negative 1 there of your m. So again, on this side, I'll do that to this to show that I'm second functioning it. Whoops. Of my m. So that'll get rid of the cos, and I'll be left with my angle m all by itself is equal to 76.2 degrees. So make sure you try and do that. If you get 76.2 degrees, I think you're off to the races.